Thank you. Just let me go over some of the rules that we set up for this debate discussion. Both Pauls, it's easy, they both have the first name. We'll have 5 minutes for opening statements, okay? Then I will ask questions for 10 minutes. For people that couldn't make it, I'm representing some of the other unit owners that couldn't make it, so I'll ask some questions. And then the audience will get up to the microphone and ask them questions for 30 minutes. And then both candidates will have closing statements for 5 minutes. Now, we're not going to time everything, but we figure it's 8:10. We'd like to make this about an hour, okay? So what we'll do is we'll get started. Paul Graziano will give his opening statement. I'll ask him a few questions. If Paul Vallone's not here at that time, we'll have the audience ask questions. But as soon as Paul comes, in all fairness, we'll have to stop the questions, let him give the opening statement, and then I'm going to have to ask the same questions I asked Paul to the other Paul, and then we could resume questioning from the unit owner and residents. Because this is not a unit owner meeting, it's a resident, everyone's invited, and everyone has a voice to vote, which is very important. So those that have relatives or friends, please, they got to come out and vote. It's that important. So without further ado, I present to you the candidate for New York City Council for the Reform Party, Paul Graziano.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Thanks for having me tonight. It's great. There's about almost 40 people here. It's fabulous that so many people turned out. And some of you, I actually recognize a lot of folks here because this is the third time I've been here now in a few months. And it's great to see you all. Thank you for coming out again. So I'll be fairly brief. Many of you have heard why I'm here and what I'm about. And so I'll just restate what I did, what I have done for this community and who I am. So I am from this community. I'm born and bred here. I grew up in North Flushing. I actually live in the house next door to the house that I grew up in. My parents lived right next door to me. I'm raising my 19-month-old son Theo with my wife Ella and my stepson Philip, who's 15 and a sophomore in high school, and my other stepson, who's 23, who also lives with us. And basically my background has been in community organizing and civic associations, dealing with neighborhood issues, particularly land use issues. That's my main issue for the last 25 years. So why am I running for city council? I'm running for city council because we have a crisis in our community, and it doesn't affect the Bay Club as much as it does many other areas, but again, many of you have heard me talk about this in the previous 2 times I've been here. But our community has many issues that are not being addressed, A, by the current council member, B, by the current mayor. And again, while I'm running on the Reform Party line, I am a registered Democrat. I did run in the Democratic primary, so I just want to make that very clear to everybody. Basically, throughout the district, what I have done over the last 20 plus years is to rezone our community. Now, why did we do that? We did that to stop overdevelopment in our community. And overdevelopment is a big issue here. You have to think of it this way. The more people that we have in our district, the more strain that we have on our infrastructure and our services. The more kids we have in our schools. I was just speaking to a former school teacher here. When I went to elementary school, I went to PS 21, which is right near where I live in North Flushing. There were about 28 kids per class. I guarantee you there are way more kids per class today. That's where my son will be going to school in a few years when he goes into pre-K, or if 3K passes, we'll see if that happens. There are strains on our schools. There are strains on our sanitation. There are strains on our streets. And we have to deal with these issues. And again, what I ended up doing through the rezonings that we did between 2003 and 2013 for this district was to lower the amount of density that could be built throughout Northeast Queens and maintain the suburban lifestyle that many of you, before you lived in the Bay Club, did you live in the community in other parts of Bayside and Flushing and other areas in Northeast Queens? How many people here? Raise your hands. Okay, quite a few.
I lived in Nassau.
Nassau. Okay, so again, our area of Queens is relatively unique in the city of New York. And again, my goal has been to keep it a really great place for families and for other folks, whether they're not families, but for people who want to live in a great community, keep it a desirable place to live. Part of that is dealing with zoning issues. Other issues have to do with, again, property taxes, and this is something that I brought up at the previous discussions as well. The rest of the state of New York has a 2% property tax cap. Now, I don't know if you folks have noticed, but in the last 7 years, my property taxes, since I purchased my house, have doubled, or almost doubled. Now, this is a significant increase for a lot of people, particularly people living in our community, which is a mostly middle-class community. Okay? Obviously, this is also going into condos, co-ops, etc. So I'm calling for a 2% property tax cap for all 1- and 2-family homes, co-ops, and condos in the city. This is something that we've been trying to pass up in Albany, and this is something that should be happening in the city of New York. In our community, one of the biggest issues that's going on is not only are illegal developments happening, but there's been illegal conversions of single-family homes and 2-family homes. It's been a big, big issue in our community. It's something that I've taken a leadership position on for the last 15 years. That was part of the reason that we rezoned our community to protect these areas. Other issues that have come up, and I had some discussions with people just beforehand. We have a situation on Northern Boulevard, if anybody has been driving on Northern Boulevard between Bayside and Douglaston. It's the new bike lanes that my opponent supported. And I'm a biker. I'm someone who bikes 100 to 150 miles a week. I do not support these bike lanes. It is a disaster. This is what happens when the current council member and the mayor do not listen to the community. The best way to deal with bikers and pedestrians is to expand Joe Michael's Mile from the waterfront around along Northern Boulevard to the north of Northern Boulevard, where all of that property is owned by the city of New York. It's about negotiating with the agencies and having a leader as your council member to make this happen. That's the right way to do it. There have been at least 4 accidents in 2 weeks since this has gone up. And it is a real problem. It's a major, major issue. In fact, it's such an issue that my opponent did not come to the Douglaston Civic Association candidates night last week, because he knew that those folks who are dead set opposed to this were going to go after him for this. So all I have to say is, I believe, and that's again why I'm running for city council, it's why I ran in the Democratic primary and continuing to run today, that we need a change of leadership in this district. In the entire city of New York, and I mentioned this to one of the people sitting here earlier, in all of the races for city council, every incumbent won, including my opponent. But I came closest in the entire city. So what that says to me is that there are many people in this district who are extremely dissatisfied. And when I say very close, I mean within 10 percentage points. Everyone else was way, way beyond that. There are many people who are very upset with both the current leadership as well as the mayor of New York City. And I'm not a fan of Mayor de Blasio. Part of the job of being a council member is to represent your community, even if you're opposing the mayor. My opponent put out a mailer this week saying he was independent and fighting City Hall. Well, I looked up his voting record, and he has voted more than 99% of the time with the mayor. So this is about being honest, and representing, again, all the people in your council district, from College Point all the way to Nassau County. And that's why I'm running for city council. I have a record stretching 25 years. I've never asked for anything from anybody. I have no ties to the real estate industry, which again, my opponent was a real estate lobbyist, and his family have the 5th largest lobbying firm in the entire city of New York. I am here to represent the people of this district, as I have already been doing for over 20 years. So with that, I will turn it over back to Dave, and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Well, you made it here a pretty good time, Paul.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. So it's my honor to present to the Bay Club our New York City Councilman who is running for re-election, Mr. Paul Vallone.
Good evening, everyone. Well, you guys are up late. It's 8:20. This is a late night for everybody. So thank you for staying up. Thank you for seeing you again. It becomes long days, right? You got to keep on going and rolling. We just left College Point Civic. A lot of issues there, and I think I was the best dressed coach of the Vince Lombardi of my son's soccer team as I was doing this at Auburndale for my son's 6th grade team. So we all wear many hats, as do you. And I think the best thing that we can look back on these last 4 years is what we've done together. Because no office is by themselves. Whether we're working with Dave, whether we're working with Yakov, whether we're working with Rabbi Yossi at the Chabad, whether we're working at the Self-Help Center, with the Samuel Field Y, wherever it may be, our library, David Abbott, Vanessa Rosa, the principals down the block at 169 in Bell Academy. This is the heart of Bayside. And Bay Terrace, as Bay Terrace goes and as Bayside goes, the rest of the district goes. Between Bell Boulevard and the Bell Boulevard Business Association and those that fight for what's here, we had a lot of work to do. If you look back 4 years ago, we were last in everything. There was no connection to city government. No one was coming here. How many meetings did we have here before I was here? How many elected officials showed up and had quarterly meetings to sit and talk about what's going on? How many times did the 109 police precinct come in and address you individually? How many quarterly meetings did we talk about local law 11 and the injustice it puts on the maintenance bills when every 10 years you have to do an inspection and you pass it every time? How many times did we talk about co-op assessments going through the roof? Co-op not being protected by local law, by being a tax class 1, being left alone in a tax class 2. If you're a building with more than 10 units, which I think we are, you guys have no protection whatsoever, right? Was it just a couple of years ago, went up over 100%, your assessments? You need to put in some type of protections. Those are the type of things that we've been fighting for over the last 4 years, and with your help we did it. Even just the left-hand turn signal up the block. Wasn't that the first thing we asked for? That goes back 2 decades. What does that say about the leadership before us? Didn't happen. It happened when we got it done. From the little things to the big things. When we won the Democratic primary with your vote, I thank you very much. Now we come into the general election. That's going back 4 years. And that's the true work of what we've done. And I'm proud to be running as a Democrat, not on a party with 15 registered voters, but as a Democrat, as someone that's been here, as someone that doesn't show up every 4 years for an election and make things up and pretend to take credit for everything. Politics by negative attacks is the worst kind of politics. It's what divides everyone and everything. When you look at what you've done, the weeks in review, the campaigns that you've done, the literature that you put out, I go home, I go to bed with my kids and they say, Dad, I'm proud of you. You did the best you could. You're a father that we look up to. You're a campaign that you did with honesty and trust. I don't know if anyone else can say that in this room. And when you run that type of campaign and you put that type of slime in front of people's faces, the community rejected it. From Rabbi Yossi to every community leader, they said, we do not want that type of campaign. We do not want that type of candidate. We want a family man. We want somebody who stands up for values. We want somebody who learned from his father how to be the best council member you can be. Somebody who's going to fight for this district, for our seniors, to understand the issues of what's going on with the senior community. You know, by the way, that senior transportation program, it's back. November 13th, that program is being restarted and you can get the free transportation anywhere you need to go for medical appointments. Why did we do that? Because seniors here are landlocked without transportation issues. Dealing with Accessoride to get where you have to go is like getting no ride. So that was things that we spoke about at our breakfast, at our meetings, to say, how can we make our quality of life better? How can we make ourselves safer? Now, which police department protects us? The 109. How many times did we see the 109 4 years ago? Not so much. Why? They didn't have the resources to get here. So understanding each community takes community involvement. Being in the meetings, actually going to and listening with people. Showing up every 4 years does not make you a candidate. It makes you someone who shows up every 4 years and loses. To be involved with the community, you have to be here and listen and talk and find out what's going on. That's what we've been doing, and that's what we're so proud of. And that's what we want to do for 4 more years together. Working with the parents and the teachers in the schools. We have the 2 best school districts in the city. Is it any help from the mayor or the administration? No. No money whatsoever. We give half of our funding to every school in the district. That's so important for great schools like right down the block, 169 and Bell Academy. They can offer new programming. We brought in 4 years, $65 million back between myself, the borough president, other elected officials, working together. Not with one man standing on the corner screaming, working together with the other elected officials to say, yeah, let's do that. Let's get the 109, 85 new permanent officers. How did we do that? To bring the safety to Bay Terrace, to Whitestone, to College Point. They weren't going to build a new precinct. They had to expand the program. So we brought the very first program, police department in Queens. The 109 brought the NCO, the Neighborhood Community Coordinating Officers Program, to Bay Terrace. And now, just like the officers you met last month, right? They came, they sat in front of you, they took the interest of what's going on. Those are your dedicated team police officers that never existed before. Bay Terrace has a group, College Point has a group, Whitestone has a group. Those are the faces, that's the beat cop that's back. And that's what's so important. Understanding what's important to you living here in Baycroft, bringing it back to the council office, and listening to the community board. Whatever nonsense you hear about bike lanes and things, the community board votes. We have followed 100% of the time what the community board, which is our representatives, want to do. Whatever goes through the community board, we back it 100%. That is a very controversial bike lane, and it still is to this day. We are a driving community. We're a driving community that has no train, that has limited express bus, forces us to drive. Anything that impedes our ability to drive is going to be a problem. Community board originally voted to approve that, and then changed their mind with a subsequent issue, with a subsequent plan. That plan is asking for about $10 to $15 million of working on the sidewalks and all the rest. Whatever happens, it's not working now. Even with those cement barriers, with the Jersey barriers, put the orange pylons up, so if someone has a chance and is trying to make it, do it so that there's a way that doesn't cause a crash. People coming in and out of the Cross Island Parkway, it's just not a good plan. However, controversy is going to create more controversy. They're going to have to figure that out. But whatever the community board votes on, and whatever the plan that's approved, our job is to follow that. Those are just some of the critical examples. Working with our seniors, working with our safety, protecting our quality of life, and working with you, especially our teachers and our seniors. That's what a council office does. Prior to us taking office, there was no connection. There was no dialogue. Every ethnic group, from Korean, Chinese, Spanish, Jewish, Italian, Greek, they are in our office. From leaders like Rabbi Yossi at the Chabad, where we just celebrated the Simchat Torah last week, dancing on the street on 26th Avenue. I think we almost got arrested where we were out having a good time. That's understanding and knowing who's the heart of the community. Working with Father Dionysios and Holy Cross, and Father Joe and Pastor Kim in the Korean community. Understanding each one who's on Community Board 7, Community Board 11, the different civic associations, with David and Warren and all the rest that run the groups. That's what we've done. It's been an amazing 4 years. Very proud of the campaign that we've run. Very proud of the campaign that we're running. Proud of the legacy that I'll be able to leave to my children, who one day will say, that was my dad. He did that. We're proud of him. We're proud of what he stood for, proud of what he said, the truth that he said, and how he respected the other candidates. I will never change that. And that's part of who we are. And that's what you have to judge when you go in on November 7th. I hope we can do it again for 4 more years. Thank you. God bless you.
I'm gonna change it around, because I know you people were waiting patiently, we started late. So we're gonna have you ask the questions first. So why don't you go up to the podium, ask your questions for both candidates, and we'll switch off. We'll let you go first this time, and then the next time.
Okay, Ruth Lara, East Building. Mr. Graziano, you said that you were opposed to Mayor de Blasio, that you were not supporting him. Who are you supporting for mayor?
I'm supporting Sal Albanese, who ran against Mayor de Blasio in the Democratic primary and actually did the best of all the people who were running against him, and he's now running again in the general election.
And what party is he?
He's on the Reform Party.
On the
Yes,
Reform.
he's on the Reform Party.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Harriet Feldman. I live in the West Building. I'm not really tall enough to this mic, but I'll manage. Thank you. I love the Bay Terrace Library, and I use it a lot. And I'm a senior, a handicapped senior. There are 4 bus stops on the corner of where the library is. And I'm proposing moving one of the bus stops across the street to share with another line, so that there is parking space in front of the library for handicapped drivers and others, or at least a time limit.
Right. A dedicated 5-minute or 15-minute limit.
Exactly,
Got
right.
it.
At least 5 to 15 minutes.
Sure.
2 weeks ago, I got a ticket because I brought my book back to the library. I parked in the bus stop. There was no place else to park. Went into the library, came out 4.5 minutes later, and the police officer was in the middle of writing the ticket. And I said, couldn't you wait 2 minutes on here? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll watch your car next time. That's not what I want. I don't want him to have to watch my car. I'd like to have a place that's legal so I can return the book and not get a ticket for $115, which is a lot of money.